The sound of sirens cutting through a peaceful afternoon isn't something you ever really expect. Not when you're just standing in your backyard, coffee cup in hand, thinking you finally found a little corner of the world where the drama stays on TV, you know. But here they were, two cops stepping out of their cruiser, giving me that look. The one that says, "We're not sure if you're a criminal or a victim yet, ma'am." And behind them, red-faced, practically shaking, was Derek Whitmore, shouting at the top of his lungs that I'd locked him out of what he kept calling the community pool, like he was some hero in a made-for-TV movie fighting for justice in swim trunks. I could see those officers sizing us both up, trying to figure out which one of us was the loose cannon, while Derek went off about how his mom said this pool always belonged to the neighborhood, how I had no right to lock it up and ruin his summer. You could almost see the cartoon steam pouring out his ears. One cop looked at me and just asked as politely as he could if this was a shared amenity. I didn't say a word, just reached for the folded deed I'd started carrying everywhere like a security blanket for adults with mortgage anxiety. I handed it over, and as soon as he saw that official seal, I saw his eyebrows lift. Just a hair, one of those small victories that honestly felt bigger than it should. That deed was crystal clear. No fine print about shared pools, no weird easements, nothing but my name and Emma's future happiness. That was the moment I'd been waiting for after months of playing whack-a-mole with neighborhood rumors and late-night trespassers. But hey, let me back up a sec, because none of this started with police cars and property drama. It started about 6 months before, when I was just a worn-out single mom living in an apartment so cramped that if Emma sneezed, I'd say "bless you" from the kitchen. We were scraping by after the divorce, dreaming of something more. And then, like one of those little miracles life throws at you, my realtor called a foreclosure in Maplewood Estates. 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, and the clincher a pool so blue it looked fake in the listing photos. It stretched every penny I had. But watching Emma's face the first time she saw that backyard, I just knew we'd founded a place to start over our very own safe zone. The paperwork was a blur of signatures, but my lawyer double-checked everything, especially the HOA stuff. Turns out the HOA had fizzled out years ago, bled dry by folks tired of paying dues. No more community rules, just some faded standards and a pile of expired newsletters. Honestly, for the first month, it was perfect. Emma thrived. I exhaled for the first time in years, and the neighbors smiled and waved. I thought I'd found the kind of peace that sticks. And then I met Karen Whitmore. 3 houses down, always perfectly put together with that "I run the place" energy you can feel before you open the door. She showed up one Saturday, flanked by Derek, who looked like he was born scowling. Karen introduced herself as the unofficial coordinator, which should have set off alarms right there. She explained, all sweet and patronizing, how the pool had always been a community thing, especially for the teens. It would mean a lot if I kept up the tradition. I tried to be diplomatic, told her straight up that privacy was why I bought the place, and the paperwork didn't say anything about a neighborhood water park. Karen's smile flickered, but she tried to sell it again, hinting that maybe I didn't understand how things worked around here. Derek just glared through the glass at the pool like I'd stolen his birthday. They left with that vibe that said, "We're not done here." After that, things got weird. Emma and I started noticing towels left out, wet footprints, sometimes even candy wrappers on the deck. The kids were slipping in while I was at work, treating my pool like a public fountain. I called Karen. She brushed it off, saying I was being uptight, and reminded me that I should try harder to fit in. I pushed back, told her I'd checked every legal angle. She cooled off real quick, tossed out a line about how maybe I belonged somewhere else if I wasn't willing to be neighborly, and hung up. The trespassing just got worse. Beer cans in the bushes, cigarette butts in the flowers once I found graffiti. I called her again, got more denial, and of course she accused me of picking on innocent kids. One night I came home and Derek and 3 friends were straight up having a pool party in my backyard, music, snacks, the works. When I told them to get out, Derek, I kid you not, tried to tell me his mom had given him permission. The nerve. I only had to threaten the cops before he finally left, but he promised me with all the drama of a TV villain that it wasn't over. That was it. I installed a heavy lock on the gate, put up a fortress of no trespassing signs, and started researching security cameras. I figured, surely a locked gate sends the message. Right? Wrong. The next phase was social media war. Karen started posting nonstop in the neighborhood Facebook group, all vague but clearly about me. Selfish new homeowner, hogging what's always been for everyone. Comments rolled in, some supportive plenty, just stirring the pot. But a few neighbors reached out to me quietly, told me Karen had always been, well, a bit much. Even with the new lock, Derek found ways to sneak in, even scaling the fence. The kid was relentless. One day I caught him again. He played innocent, claiming he left something behind. I said flat out that if I found him on my property again, the police would be the next ones he'd see. He shrugged and muttered something that gave me chills about how I'd regret keeping him away. Stress ate at me. Emma started asking why the neighbors were mad. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work. Finally, I hired a lawyer. He confirmed everything: my pool, my property, no community obligations. I got those security cameras up, every angle covered. The very next morning, camera alert on my phone, guess who Derek's swimming, fence and all. This time I had video, and when I confronted him, he doubled down, still convinced he was the victim. Less than an hour after he left, the police showed up, the sirens, the cruiser, the whole neighborhood watching. Derek, red-faced, telling the officers I'd locked him out of the community pool. The officers heard his side, then listened to me explain cool as I could about the repeated trespassing, the video, the deed. I handed over my documents. The cops checked their own records, confirmed the HOA had dissolved. There was no such thing as community pool rights, and for the first time since all this began, I saw Derek's confidence unravel. That's when Karen herself swooped in, voice sharp, demanding to know why the cops were harassing her son. She tried to take charge, spinning the story that I was somehow tricking the system and stealing from the community. The officer held up my deed and calmly explained the facts: my property, my pool, no legal claim for anyone else. Karen's face cycled through confusion, fury, and honestly a flash of fear when the cops started talking about possible charges for Derek trespassing, false police report, the works. Karen tried to argue ignorance, but the officer shut it down. She got a formal warning right there on the curb in front of half the neighborhood about encouraging trespassing and misusing emergency services. Derek got an earful about juvenile charges and nodded, his apology suddenly shy. And just like that, the drama faded. Karen's post disappeared. Derek was a ghost, and for a few blissful weeks, Emma and I had our sanctuary back. But then out of nowhere, I got a letter, handwritten, fancy stationery, from David Whitmore, Karen's husband. He apologized for everything, admitted the HOA had dissolved, said Karen had known but didn't want to let go of the good old days. He begged me not to press charges, promised it was over. It was humbling. He even shared how embarrassed he was and how Karen's campaign had damaged their reputation, not just with me, but all over Maplewood. But I wasn't about to let my guard down. I built a taller fence, upgraded the cameras, put in lights, made it clear my property wasn't up for debate anymore. Most neighbors were supportive. Some even admitted they'd been burned by Karen before, and an older gentleman told me straight up there'd never been any shared pool nonsense in the old HOA days. It was all Karen's invention, and with the truth finally exposed, her grip on the community just kinda evaporated. The neighborhood changed. Karen faded into the background, her authority gone. Derek became a shadow, no more sneaking around, just a kid who'd learned his lesson the hard way. The pool became ours again. Emma swam with her friends. We had cookouts. Neighbors dropped by for coffee instead of complaints. The cameras even caught wildlife coming back, deer, raccoons, the works. Emma started a nature journal, turning those late-night alerts into a game. One afternoon, I watched Karen stroll by with relatives, clearly trying to save face as she pointedly avoided eye contact. I felt this calm, like finally the weight was gone. Later, David found me at the grocery store, thanked me for not taking it further, explained Karen was getting counseling for her control issues, and Derek had written apology letters and was volunteering to make things right. So that's how a single pool became the battlefield for a whole neighborhood's worth of baggage. If you ask me, the moral is simple. Stand your ground. Keep your receipts and never ever underestimate what one entitled neighbor and a little rumor can do. My backyard is finally peaceful. My daughter's happy. And I sleep just fine at night, knowing I fought for what was right, even when the odds felt stacked. But hey, maybe you see it differently. Maybe you think Karen had a point or Derek was just being a kid. Maybe you've dealt with something just as nuts in your own neighborhood. So let's hear it. Where do you draw the line between community and private property? Who is in the right? Drop your thoughts below because I get the feeling this is the kind of story that keeps going one pool at a time.